Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 661, Could I But Ride Indefinite. Now, in many ways, we're back to poem 652. You guys will maybe remember that we played this game. A prison gets to be a friend between its ponderous face and ours a kinsmanship express, and in its narrow eyes we come to look with gratitude for the appointed beam it deal us. Stated is our food and hungered for the same. We learn to know the planks that answer to our feet so miserable a sound at first, nor ever now so sweet as splashing in the pools when memory was a boy, but a demurer circuit, a geometric joy, the posture of the key that interrupt the day, to our endeavor not so real, the cheek of liberty as this phantasm steal, whose features day and night are present to us as our own, and as escapeless quite, the narrow round, the stint, the slow exchange of hope for something passiver content, too steep for looking up, the liberty we knew avoided like a dream, too wide for any night but heaven, if that indeed redeem. Now, Emily here is in a prison in 661, just like she was in 652. But here, the tone is different. And I want you to put that in your notes right away. The tone will be what some scholars have called comic, others have called whimsical. I think this poem is actually, though, more complicated than it appears, in the same way that the great scholar Segrube once pointed out about Marcus Aurelius. What kind of individual writes a book to himself? Of course, he was speaking of meditations, and he says, a lonely man, someone who doesn't have any equals, has no peers, can speak to no one, and therefore does the only thing one can do, to write. I think Emily is in a vein like that here, especially in this poem. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments, as well as the preceding 660 poems. We just finished with 660, 'Tis Good, the listening, the looking back on grief. Now, if you've done that reading and study with us, some of what we hear in this poem will not be unusual for us. Emily, again, is in that stuck position. And the question is how to escape. Speaking of ands, notice the repetition here, the list quality of this poem with 5 ands in a row in the anaphorios we'll see. Could I but ride indefinite, as doth the meadow be, and visit only where I liked, and no one visit me, and flirt all day with buttercups, and marry whom I may, and dwell a little everywhere, or better, run away, with no police to follow, or chase him if he do, till he should jump peninsulas to get away from me. I said, but just to be a bee upon a raft of air, and row in nowhere all day long, and anchor off the bar. What liberty! So captives deem, who tight in dungeons are. Now, some have read this poem as comic and whimsical, and I think it can certainly be read that way. I think, though, that the final lines of this poem have a pretty interesting twist. Hey guys, do you remember when we did our Dante, our study of Dante, the Divine Commedia at learnstrong.net? You'll remember said that of Dante, and not original to us, as all these ideas are not original to us. You'll remember we said Dante was at the same time the most universal of poets and yet the most specific of poets. And I think Emily is very much the same. Emily here speaking for all of us, those moments in our life when we feel like, wouldn't it just be great to somehow become unstuck? And of course, to some degree, channeling Hamlet's famous Act 3 speech, to be or not to be, that notion that if one could just get out from under the fartles bear, he calls it in that speech. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. Notice, it will begin with speculation. I wish I could, but ride indefinite. In other words, no plan. As, notice or simile, the meadow be. Right? Visit only where I like. And then, of course, Emily, some have called her a recluse, some have called her agoraphobic. No one visit me. By the way, did you notice that the word no here is capitalized? So be left alone. And flirt all day with buttercups. Now, of course, the word flirt will marry with the word marry here in a bit, right? And marry whom I may. Again, there seems to be maybe a backstory here that we wonder, has Emily been having conversations with someone who would have charge over her, namely her father, in determination of who it is that she would marry, maybe even her mother. And then she uses this word dwell. Now, we'll see this word dwell in the next poem, 662. You'll remember that we saw it, I dwell in possibility, in 657. Where Emily lives is of some importance. Notice the use of the word little. I told you guys in 172 of her poems, a little everywhere. And then she finally says, or, even beyond that, better, run away, with no police to follow, Emily trying to get away. And then she switches it. Instead of the police trying to chase after her, by the way, police is only other uses in 1745. When we saw runaway, by the way, you'll remember 413, myself would run away. She uses this phrase only a handful of times. But the police, instead of chasing her, she would chase him if he do, till he should jump peninsulas to get away from me. Again, Emily's comic voice. I said, it's almost, again, we called our series Chats with Emily for a number of reasons. One of them is this, ability for her to come back in the same set of lines to, you know, I was saying before, but just to be a bee. And then we're back to it. Up on a raft of air and row in nowhere all day long. It's brilliant. I mean, you know, the raft of air, we think of our Odyssey, don't we, and the journey motif. Up on a raft of air and row in nowhere all day long. Emily, as we've said in earlier lectures, lived in a house where there were all of these structures that were placed on her, domestication of all different types. Emily was the great bread maker of her house, but she had a lot of duties. These poems that she's writing will happen in the early morning hours or late at night because she's so busy throughout the rest of her day. She says, wouldn't it be great to be nowhere all day long? And then she uses the idea of the raft and anchoring off the bar. Notice off the bar here in quotation marks. You guys will remember at 249 when she was playing the game of one of her most famous poems, right? Wild nights, were I with thee, wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart, rowing in Eden, the sea, might I but moor tonight in thee. Notice here it's the opposite. She wants to just somehow get away just off the bar and live there alone. Think about Yeats's Innisfree, Lake Isle of Innisfree. That longing, and of course we can think about her contemporary Thoreau and his longing to escape to Walden, to the woods, right? All of that will finish with what liberty, and the only exclamation point of the poem. It makes some sense that this is where it would be, right? She says, what would that be like if I could just get away from it all? And then, so, captives, notice capitalized, deem who tight in dungeons are. You'll remember dungeons from 1119, 277, 295. Do you remember dungeons in 474 when she was playing the game as well about they put us far apart as separate as sea, and her unsown peninsula, we're back to that word, we signified these see. They took away our eyes, they thwarted us with guns. I see thee, each responded straight through telegraphic signs. With dungeons they devised. But through their thickest skills and their opacest adamant, our souls saw just as well. And when we get to poem 728, we'll come back to this dungeons thing one more time. And she'll say, let us play yesterday. I, the girl at school, you in eternity, the untold tale. Easing my famine at my lexicon, logarithm had I for drink. 'Twas a dry wine. Somewhat different must be dreams tempt the sleep. Cunning reds of morning make the blind leap. Still at the egg life chafing the shell, when you troubled the ellipse and the bird fell. Manacles be dim, they say, to the new free. Liberty commoner never could to me. 'Twas my last gratitude when I slept at night, 'Twas the first miracle let in with light. Can the lark resume the shell? Easier for the sky. Wouldn't bonds hurt more than yesterday? Wouldn't dungeons sorer great? On the man free just long enough to taste, then doomed new. God of the manacle as of the free, take not my liberty away from me. I'll read it again. God of the manacle as of the free, take not my liberty away from me. Emily, of course, this tension with being somehow stuck. How are we going to find a message here? I think the argument is that it is hard to not be free, to be in a dungeon, and to be, well, the tone. Again, do you read this as jest and whimsical, or more as serious, and we might even say tragic? At 3, I can't help but think that Shelley's classic Prometheus Unbound and the whole Promethean myth is somehow standing behind much of this poem. And of course, we mentioned our Dante. Think about all of those characters who Dante the Pilgrim meets, and they're stuck, right? They're stuck. They can't get out of, especially Inferno. Finally, to own a poem like this, when was a time that you longed for the liberty of being nowhere? Thank you.